Hello, YouTube. This is Captain Omni, and I'm coming at you with another fanfiction concept. And this is one that is one I've been kind of stewing on for a while now. And I think, might as well go ahead and get it out there. And this is, as you can tell by the title, Marvel Earth 1939. Now, I bet you're wondering, what's the significance of that title? Well, it's because, that was when the first Marvel comic, Marvel Comics came out, the Marvel Comics #1. And that does tie into, in case you can't tell by the picture here, what this is going to be about. This is going to be a fanfiction universe that focuses completely on the original Timely Comics superhero lineup. It would be basically kind of like a reboot of the Timely universe, but it's like just those characters that Marvel created back when they were Timely, because believe it or not, they actually had quite a pretty stacked roster of superheroes back then. So this would actually follow a universe where basically, what if there's still World War II, and there's still Captain America, obviously, and there's still, Bucky Barnes, and of course you have Neymar, and as you can see, the original Human Torch, aka Jim Hammond. But the thing here is, basic idea is, what if it was just a universe where they remained the big three? Because for Timely Comics, Captain America, the Submariner, and the Human Torch were basically their big three. Today you can argue it's in universe it's Thor, Cap, and Iron Man, but originally it was Cap, Namor, and the Torch. So basically the idea here is to kind of explore what this universe would be like. And I'm going to be focusing on, for this one, the big three, so to speak, of Marvel here. And that is, and we're just going to get things started off with Captain America. Now, Captain America would still be, Steve Rogers, and he'd still have, basically, he would change the least. I would not change much about Steve here, because really, you can't really change much about Steve without kind of, altering things too much without him not being, him. However, there is one difference. He and Bucky are the only ones that would end up getting frozen. Be the only ones that, they do get frozen. Back up. They would be the ones that are the only ones that exist in World War II. The original World War II superheroes. Mostly because, again, this is assuming that this is a complete reboot. So, yeah. Basically, if the Timely characters happen to be, coming into their own in the modern day. So what this would be is, you have Captain America and Bucky would actually, end up getting frozen. Now, but you're wondering, how does Bucky end up getting frozen along with Cap, or more to the point, surviving? Well, basically what would happen is, Cap would have to do a blood transfusion with Bucky in order to, because they have the same blood type. But the thing with this, though, is they don't really realize it, but this doesn't necessarily give him the super soldier's abilities right away, but it does end up saving his life, because when they both end up getting frozen, they basically kind of gestates in Bucky's system long enough to where it does not only keeps him alive, but it also ends up making him a super soldier, just like Cap is, and they're both thought out together, and they end up, continuing on as usual. I bet you're wondering, why isn't Bucky considered dead here? Well, again, this is following the original Timely universe where Cap had a sidekick, and it was Bucky, And so basically Cap ends up waking up in a modern world, and there is a shield here, but that's mostly because I'm tying it back into the fact that Nick Fury, the original Nick Fury, was originally a Timely Comics character, Sergeant Fury. Well, here he's become General Fury, not Colonel Fury, General Fury, and he founded, shield, named, and kind of got the name for it after Captain America. So shield is still a thing. Not every, but because to make this clear, there are some Marvel elements here, like from the more modern Marvel universe at play here, but for the most part, like the superheroes, they would mostly, like 99% of them would be 100% from the their time is timely comics. And Cap. So basically, Cap's found by Shield. Cap and Bucky are found by Shield, and they end up in modern day, fighting crime in the modern day. Now this leads into the first appearance of Neymar the Submariner. Now Neymar would end up basically being like, he would be very much the anti-hero at first. He would be very much the anti-hero. He's the one that basically is like, surface dwellers are harming the oceans, all of this, and he would take umbrage with it. However, it's like they end up sending, his first encounters though are against a ruthless terrorist organization by the name of the Skull Conspiracy. Now, the Skull Conspiracy is actually, you guessed it, a from the ground up organization dedicated to the Red Skull, who has indeed survived, just like Cap. He's actually, but however, unlike most depictions, he is an old man. He didn't have any kind of special life-saving thing or longevity extender. Basically, the Red Skull is an old man here, but he never really spent. He's been biding his time building up the Skull Conspiracy to pretty much take over the world. What else? Basically, how I would imagine, basically the Red Skull here is essentially, think the Major from Hellsing and Millennium. That's kind of how the Skull Conspiracy is. It is essentially like, these leftover Nazis who did not, and Nazi sympathizers who are basically, we're going to finish World War II. We were not beaten. We are still going to go through. We are going to bring this back. And of course, if it happens to be with old Johann Schmidt as the Fuhrer, well, he's perfectly fine with that. They would be the first ones that Namor ended up running up against, which indirectly makes people think, well, is this guy a hero or what? And Namor's like, I'm not a hero to you. It's like, again, he's very much that kind of anti-hero kind of Namor thing, where it's like, yeah, he will defend innocence, but he has no, and he will defend innocence and people he likes, but he is not the nicest guy ever. If he doesn't like you, you'll know it, that kind of thing. And of course, you have Jim Hammond, aka the Human Torch. He's still going to be an android, a creation of Professor Phineas Horton. But the thing here is, he's not, like, a lot of people get this wrong about Jim Hammond, is that he's a mechanical android. He's actually a carbon copy, made, bit for bit to be an exact replica of a human being. He's got more in common with, say, the Frankenstein's monster in terms of his composition than he does, say, a Terminator or the Vision or anything. Because he is made to be a synthetic human. He can still bleed. He doesn't age, but he is essentially a purely synthetic human made of synthetic parts. Which is why the name Human Torch can still kind of fly, because he is human in the ways that matter, kind of. He's got lungs, everything, lungs, heart, organs, that kind of thing. And of course, the main thing is, he's fireproof. He combusts, which turns out to be an actual. While Horton does play like, oh no, that's not supposed to happen. As it turns out, Horton actually designed him to be able to do this, because he had been spending years trying to create a means to essentially create a hero to fight the Skull conspiracy, because thing is, it had not been 100% like, out in the open, but, Horton knew of them. I mean, mostly because they were, his family was attacked by them when they were still in their earliest phases of coming together, and, so it was like, no, because, Horton here, Professor Horton is Jewish, like he is in the 616 universe. So basically he creates the Human Torch in order to be a means of, no, I'm not going through this again, someone's going to stop them. So that's what he creates the Human Torch for, and S.H.I.E.L.D. ends up getting involved, and they realize, and Fury's like, okay, this torch guy, he could be of some use. So what we're going to do is, we're going to set you up with a family, everything. Well, family, but we're going to set you up, you and your Horton, we're just going to set you and your wife and your kid and your wife up with a new life for your family, and we are going to use the torch. And of course they give the torch a cover identity by the name of Jim Hammond, who happens to be a janitor at the Triskelion, which, I'm borrowing some Marvel stuff here. So basically Triskelion is kind of like the S.H.I.E.L.D. equivalent of the Pentagon. So it's like, Jim Hammond, the unassuming janitor, is really the Human Torch. So basically this would all end up putting them all on a collision course with each other. Cap, Bucky, Neymar, and the Torch, as they end up forming the Invaders. Because as it's now, which is an unofficial name kind of given to them by S.H.I.E.L.D., mostly because they're going to be set up to invade the home base of the Skull conspiracy, which is in a remote island in South Asia by the name of Madripoor. Again, I'm bringing some modern Marvel elements into this, but at the same time, it's like, they're going to be basically, Madripoor is a fiction. If those of you don't know, is a fictional South Asian island in Marvel that's essentially a criminal hub. Because it was founded by criminals. It was founded as a criminal hideout, and that just kind of never stopped. But here, it's essentially the unofficial home base of the Skull conspiracy. So basically, the invaders are going to invade. And that's just the opening part of this universe. I plan on doing coming back to do this a little more. And you guys let me know what do you guys think. We're going to be going next time when I cover this. We'll be going more into where each individual hero stands, and we might be going over some of the other heroes that are going to be making up this new timely universe. So this has been Captain Omni signing off.